This is where I build an inspirational video to tell you that, yeah, if you see something and you don't like it, you can change it. Bring it forward in the world. Make the change accessible to everybody. Document it. Fix it. You have the power. And I'm going to talk about how I'm fixing this. This is a Model M SSK that was produced in 2021. It's really awesome mechanically. This is from Unicomp. Basically, the people that were originally making the Model M's a long time ago made a new keyboard, but its controller has a problem. Alright, some background in case you're not aware. The Model M typically refers to a class of keyboards from IBM that date back to the 80s. Technically kind of the early 80s. And they're very, very 1980s. These keyboards held up well. I mean, this keyboard is from 1992 and it still holds up really well. And the mechanism is a very satisfying buckling spring mechanism. It's a catastrophically buckling spring. But because it was designed in the 80s, there are a lot of things about it that are not modern. Well, this keyboard, made in 2021 by a company called Unicomp, addresses some of those issues. And there are many different variants of the Model M. Yes, there's one with a numeric keypad, there's one without. But this particular one has a lot of design improvements from Unicomp, which is really good. It has improvements over the one from 1992, but if you check Desk Authority and even our own forum at Level 1, there are several people that have had problems with the controller that's in this. You see, this is the controller. It's based on a Cypress microcontroller. It's pretty bog standard as far as USB controllers go, but whenever your computer suspends resumes, or after you've been using this keyboard for a prolonged period of time, sometimes like the 1 key or the Q key or escape, other keys aren't picked up anymore for mysterious reasons. It's not really super clear as to why that is. And it's unfortunate because, historically the Model M's have been 2-key rollover, but Unicomp actually saw some of the enthusiasm around the Model M, and especially the SSK. I mean, this was a decade in the making from Unicomp and only became available in early 2021. Otherwise, people were using keyboards like this one. Well, I'm here to tell you, I've got a thing, and it's open source, and it's a replacement controller for this. And the replacement controller runs some software called Quantum Mechanical Keyboard. So if there's anything that I haven't foreseen or there's any problems with anything, it's open source. You can fix it. You can tailor it to your specific thing. And that's the kind of thing that somebody who's interested in this keyboard is also going to be interested in. That's a drop-in replacement. What makes this keyboard unique is that they switched to a lower density matrix. You see, in this one, without really getting into it, there's a membrane in here, and it has so many rows, that's rows of keys, and columns. And they've arranged it a little bit so that Control and Alt and Shift don't really step on each other's toes, but it doesn't really truly support in-key rollover. It's technically a 2-key rollover type thing in the worst case scenario. If you're an insanely fast typist and your fingers linger on the keys that you've depressed a little too long, it can be a little annoying if you're up around 160 words per minute, give or take, with the 2-key rollover. See, the way that these keyboards work, and this is true even for, if you're going to build your own keyboard, because if you look at QMK, there's like hand-wired keyboards. Yeah, you can just buy a bunch of switches and run wires. If you look at the matrix inside this, or the flexible cables here, the flexible flat cable FFC, you can pretty obviously see that there's not enough wires in those cables to carry one wire for every key. You don't need to. It's a matrix. It's rows and columns. And so if I press R, it's going to be a certain row and a certain column that's energized, and the microcontroller in this will scan rows and columns looking for keys. Now, in-key rollover is the same kind of rows and columns matrix, except it adds a diode which prevents electricity from flowing backwards. You see, if I press 2 keys, the electricity can flow backwards from one column and row to another column and row, which creates ghosting. And diodes prevent that because electricity only flows one way. The good news is that because they've reworked the membrane on this is actually a 6-key rollover membrane, sort of a 10-key worst case scenario. The problem is that means that this is a custom layout, which is different from any other Model M that came before or after. The matrix in here is a 16 wire plus 8 wire. The 122 key versions of this for like terminal keyboards is like a 20 plus 8. Well, this is a 16 plus 16. So this matrix is quite a bit better, and I've worked out what that is, and there's a quantum mechanical keyboard include file that has mappings for that. So the idea here is that you just pop this open, put in a new controller, and then you're running QMK, and you can customize it however you want, and it doesn't have all the problems that this thing has. Once you've got the controller put together, you just pull the fixed flat cables out of the existing controller and pop them into the new controller, and then you got a lovely USB type B full size for the mechanical strength. I mean, I could do USB-C, but USB-C is not as mechanically strong as this giant USB type B connection. There's a store.level1techs.com link below where you can sign up and let me know what your interest is. I will probably sell these as just printed circuit boards that you can do some through-hole soldering on, but there's a thread on the Level 1 forum, and I'd love to hear from you and what you plan to do, and if you plan to buy a whole bunch and that kind of thing. See, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The rest of the story is that I'm on a team that is working on replacement controllers for all of the Model M's, and we're working on a universal controller that works for every Model M except this one. The primary focus of this is keyboards that look like this having a modern USB type B interface. I've lost my tape. Yeah, so look at that. That's really nice. It's recessed. It's got mechanical strain relief. This is how you do it. This is good mechanical engineering here. And it's very similar on the 2021 keyboard, but it requires a different controller layout. The controller itself is designed to be easy to put together if you have a little bit of soldering. So it does have surface mount components, but all the surface mount components are with the micro. So there's a micro called the STM32 Blue Pill, and you can get those for $2 to $5, give or take. And that's what this carrier is basically designed for. And it'll interface just fine with that 16 by 16 matrix, with 16 by 12 plus 4 for the LEDs in this 2021 Model M. All of it is going to be open source, and we're definitely not the first to do this. There's a ton of threads on Desk Authority where every few years somebody comes along and builds a new controller. I think there are people right now that have gotten tired of waiting on Unicomp to fix this controller and having a replacement controller. But I'm telling you that like the mechanical aspects of this keyboard are nice enough that I would probably go ahead and buy it and then just pick up our controller or print your own if you want to. I mean, heck, you could even, if you don't want to wait on the printed circuit board, here's a Blue Pill where I've just soldered wires to it, and this will work. Not recommended, but it will work. This is much nicer. You get the grounding strap and the plug, the full size USB type B plug. There's a lot of nicety here. That's the magic of open source. All right, so let's talk off script here for a second. I said that, Blue Pill has a lot of features. So it has a UART in it, and you can use the UART to communicate with another micro. QMK has a terminal mode. So what if you put a Raspberry Pi Zero behind a serial UART connected to the Blue Pill? What does that mean? It's like, well, if I hit a certain key combination, I can be connected to the serial port on that Raspberry Pi. I can log in, I can type ls and run commands, and those keystrokes are passed over the serial link from QMK to the Pi Zero. Now you may be thinking, what do you do for an output device? You've got a Raspberry Pi Zero in your keyboard. You're doing ls. Where's the output? I'll show you. Yeah, that's right. The keyboard is the output device. You open a text document and you type ls and you hit enter, and the keyboard types to you back what the output is from the Raspberry Pi. And in case you're wondering, you can use this to play Zork on your keyboard. But in the case of Zork, I thought, gosh, it would be nice if I had another output device.
Welcome, adventure. You are currently west of house. You are standing in an open field west of the White House with a board in front door.
So yeah, the old Model M SSK has a keyboard port. IBM never really used it, but I've put it to good use with the SAM text-to-speech engine. So in addition to, the controller and the Raspberry Pi, I can also play a game of Zork with text-to-speech output. Again, you just toggle the layer on and do all of that. That is a level of madness that you will not be able to achieve with the replacement controllers out of the box. That's just so far out of scope, we're not going to do it. That's a project for you, for learning and for fun, and maybe some future videos from Level 1. But how insane is it to have a Model M that's running Linux, doesn't really have a display out device, but it can type to you or do text-to-speech? It's pretty nuts. I'm Wendell, this is Level 1, and this is the post-outro bump fun time scene thing. I'm going to the Level 1 forums. I'm signing out, and I'll see you there. This is the kind of stuff we do at Level 1. Come on, it's exciting. It's made possible by patrons and Flowplane members. So, sub and stuff. All right, I'll see you there.